We are in part 2 of chapter 10, and let me tell you, the first part really did tick me off in a lot of places. Basically, where we left off was Gypsy's going in about how she met Nick, how they lived in this little fantasy world where they would role play with each other, but Nick was the villain in all this. He was the one that influenced her to do BDSM and stuff like that, and that's just where we're left off in the storytelling that Nick and her would do. She says that Nick would tell her the fantasies that he would have in regards to unaliving his ex-girlfriend and then raping her unalived body, and that this was something that he was very much into. But in the interrogations themselves, when he is questioned about this, because apparently he wanted to do the same thing with Dee Dee's body, he had stated that he wasn't into necrophilia, and that's just not, he found that to be very gross. But then when the officer had told him, no, Gypsy had told us that you did want to do that, he recanted his statement and stated that, well, he thought about it, but he would never actually do it because it was something that grossed him out. He stated or told Gypsy that he wanted to carve names into her body and also carve names into his ex. And I feel like Gypsy had put that in the book because a lot of people had questioned why the V was on her mother, so she needed to project that away from her because Nick had stated that he did not put any markings on Dee Dee's body. She goes in and she says that Nick is a sexist, that he feels that women and men are not equals, that men are over top of women, and that men are the masters over women. Like, women don't have as much rights as a man does, and that women are very much so inferior. This is where we go through the role play characters. The first one is Demona, and she is a half werewolf, half girl, and this profile is still up on Facebook, so if you look up, like, I think it's Demona Love Slave, you'll see a picture of a wolf as the profile picture. That's Gypsy's. Another character was Kitty, and she was a child. Another one was Candy, the slutty one, the whore, if you will. And then we get Ruby, the favorite one, yeah. But we're missing a couple of them, because I know there's more than that. There's Bella, and then there is, another one, and I can't think of it right now. She said that they use their laptops as tools to communicate and storytell with each other, and this is how most of their communication went down, was with these laptops. Where is she getting all these laptops at? Like, these laptops are just falling out of the sky at this point. She stated that both of them would wear costumes and roleplay these characters out, and that Nick had told her that he had no problem protecting her from everything, including his evil twin imaginary brother, as long as she did what she was told. Because that's what a good slave would be like to their master. She goes in and says that the only reason why she wanted to be with Nick, or the only reason why she continued to entertain him, wasn't because she cared for him, but more or less that she thought that if she had a boyfriend, it would bring her closer to the real world. He would order her to touch herself, and that she felt that the reason why he did that was so he could imagine himself touching her, and it was like Wisconsin was there. Okay. Said her mother would demonize her to shave, to not be woman-like, but then Nick would say that the only reason that she could be a woman is if he could carve her up. Literally, carve her, like, cut her. Said that her mother would feminize her by making her wear bindings, but I see in a lot of, or binders, and I see in a lot of pictures that your mother most definitely did not, unless you got G-size titties, I'm sorry. There is no way binding your breast you would still have breasts that stuck out. We see a video of you being pushed around by your mother about like a month beforehand, and they're out there, sweetheart. She said that Nick had totally controlled her to the point where it changed her whole character, the way she was as a person. That before Nick, she had a profile picture of her in a yellow sundress and a teddy bear. What about this secret profile? What about that chat room where you were talking to all these men with your cleavage showing? What about all that? What about the situation with Dan? What about those Facebook messages? We need to see them. We need to see them. I don't even want to mention this next part. She said that Nick would have her lather herself in barbecue sauce or peanut butter, and it was almost like she was a mechanical doll. She would just do as she was told, and she didn't really have any feelings or anything in regards to it. But what about that whipped cream? What about that whipped cream? She had, because of him, she had been contorted into thinking what love was. She thought that love was someone dominating you and or controlling you, and he had just twisted her whole idea. And goes on again about how the only reason why she kept this whole charade going was because she just didn't want to be alone. It wasn't because she loved him or cared for him. It was just from not wanting to be like, girl, you had access to these dating profiles. Why didn't you, like, talk to other dudes and get someone on the side? It's not like he would know. It's not like he would know. Change your password. Like, what are you doing? She said that the only way that the videos could be taken correctly from him is if she labeled at the very end of the video that she was his submissive slave, which we know based on interrogations and video proof and all of this, that most definitely didn't happen that way. So, who are you trying to convince? Are you trying to ruin someone's, like, next earring? It kind of sounds like it. That in these videos that she had to contort her body in ways that would show her lady bits, like under the hood of a rusty old car. Weird comparison, but here we are. Then here we go again with the dilly-do from Japan. She said that he would want her to degrade herself and take this dilly-do and shove it down her throat, and then all three of her holes, which she was not accepted of that. She didn't want to put the dilly-do in all three holes, so she had agreed that she would shove it down her throat. And when she had to take her dentures out to shove it in her mouth, and said while she would do this, he would call her names while her tongue painted the plastic. Asked Nick what it would be like to live together, and all his answers were more of her being his own personal sex slave, and that this meant that they were married, and he owned her, and that he would degrade her by saying her chest size was not large enough and other things. His ex had messaged Gypsy and warned her that Nick was abusive and very weird and not all there in the head. Then here we go, the famous statement. She stated in this that Nick had mentioned if they had a daughter, he would want her at the age of 13. And Gypsy claims she broke up with him, but in messages, she was the one that offered the daughter. And we've all seen those messages. So what is it, Gypsy? Because we don't see the previous interaction. We see you offering your daughter at the age of 13 to a man. And I don't know what to say about that, honestly. And we finally leave at the statement that she would tell him that she wanted a life like Malcolm in the Middle. I don't know why you would want a life like that, but okay. And he didn't want that. He didn't want a typical sitcom relationship. But that ends this chapter. The next chapter is 11, and it's the movie theater. So,